Hey guys, John V here from Phone Reno. Right now you're watching our video review of the Sony Xperia Z1S. Most of us are familiar with the Sony Xperia Z1, which launched back in the fall, but the Z1S is bound for T-Mobile. It's actually exclusive to them in the US, and it's a slight variation. It features double the storage at 32 gigabytes and support for its T-Mobile specific LTE network. Even though it has a different model name, the Z1S's design is identical to the Z1 from before, so there's nothing too different about it. What's nice is that it continues to have a very premium aspect. Now, it's really nice, a very solid industrial design, rather boxy, a lot of hard lines, and for a device that has a 5-inch display, it does feel rather unwieldy just because there's a lot of dead space on the bottom and top sides of the phone. The glass front and back gives it that premium touch, but it's highly reflective, very slippery, and tends to show a lot of fingerprints and smudges. And best of all, the Z1S has an IP58 rating, which means that it could survive being submerged under 4.9 feet of water for 30 minutes without any damage. And quite honestly, it's one of the few flagship premium phones out there that you could take into the shower with you. Honestly, we were hoping to see a slightly improved display, but it's the same one found with the Z1. So it's a 5-inch 1080p triluminous display, which gives it a pixel density count of 441 pixels per inch. We're not denying the fact that it has a very detailed display. Even fine text is more legible in the web browser. Rather, it's just the weak viewing angles that disappoints us again with the display. It's a TFT panel, and you could see some noticeable distortion going on. It tends to wash out, so the black turns to a little bit of a grayish color, so not that pleasing. But when you look at it from front, it does produce some very lively looking colors, and its outdoor visibility is pretty good. For a high-end flagship smartphone, it features some amenities that we don't find on some other devices. They include things like a micro SD card slot to increase its internal storage capacity. It packs actually 32 gigabytes of storage. You have also a 2-level shutter key so you can take photos and videos underwater. And finally, you have even a spot for a lanyard. Hardcore photogs are going to really drool over the camera in the Z1S. It's a monster-sized 20.7 megapixel autofocus camera, which features Sony's own G lens, the Bion's for mobile engine, and an Exmor RS sensor, complemented by the LED flash and its 1080p video recording quality. So it might be the first flagship smartphone to come out this year, but it only gets treated to Android 4.3 Jelly Bean instead of KitKat. But it has the customized Android experience that we've seen from Sony's camp. It's the Xperia UI. It's a very familiar one, still has a lot of personalization, but it's all about the aesthetics with this one here. It has some visual presentations. Unlike its rivals, it doesn't try and inundate us with a ton of different features. Much like all the other crop out there, the Z1S is powered by Qualcomm's latest chip, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 CPU, clocked in at 2.2 gigahertz and it's coupled with 2 gigabytes of RAM. So obviously, it handles basic tasks with relative ease. And heck, it even handles high-intensity stuff with no issues whatsoever. Very few instances of lag or slowdown, and for the most part, it maintains a very consistent and responsive performance. There's some light multitasking enhancements found with the experience. When we go to the multitasking menu, we have this widgets that we could place over whatever we're doing. So we have things like a mini browser we could layer on top of something. We could even have a calculator, and you could see we could have more than one thing on screen at the same time. Another neat feature of the Z1S is its integration with the PlayStation 4 console. So if you have that, you could basically use the handset as a second screen. There's also the PlayStation Mobile application, which allows us to actually download and even purchase some additional gaming content, but they're not the typical PlayStation games that we find in the consoles. Instead, they're mostly just touch-friendly based games. Obviously, the majority of the content are basically paid games. They do have some free titles out there, but as I've said, they're basically just touch-friendly ones. So if you're into stuff like endless runner games, you'll grow to appreciate some of the stuff in the catalog, but for the most part, they're very simple. Sony focuses heavily on the camera experience. It's filled with a lot of different manual controls, but best of all are the amount of shooting modes that it has to offer. So you have auto mode, of course, but you have additional ones such as InfoWise, Social Live, Time Shift Burst, and even AR effects, which relies on augmented reality to place different stuff in the scenery. And this is where you can have a lot of fun shooting different things and gives it a very dynamic approach. Now, the 20.7 megapixel autofocus camera of the Z1S takes some astounding looking photos, really high quality, a good balance between dynamic range and exposure, and it does take some very lively looking outdoor shots where lighting's more than sufficient. Under lower lighting conditions, though, the quality could have been a little bit better. It just seems like the exposure can be a little bit wonky. At times, it can look rather overexposed, and details tend to be a little bit more speckled than we like. Sure, it might not be the grandest thing when it comes to shooting 1080p videos, but the overall package is still enough for us to accept. Details could have been a little bit sharper, but there are some pleasant things about the quality. For example, you have gradual exposure, you have a pretty fast focus system with the camera, you have also clear audio recording, and it captures video very smoothly. We're all pretty familiar with the Google Play Music application, but as an alternative, there's the Walkman application. It's really nice and jazzy with its presentation, a lot of eye candy. There's also this very neat visualizer that you could set up as the song is playing. As far as the audio quality though, with its internal speaker, it's a little bit on the lackluster side and sounds rather weak. There's no arguing that the Z1S is a joy when it comes to watching high-definition videos. It really comes to life with the display when we're looking at head-on. Now, it adjusts things like the contrast, the saturation, even the brightness to give us the most ideal experience. There's nothing really mind-blowing with the call quality with the Z1S. It's nothing more than average. The earpiece itself is strong and powerful to make out voices, though the speakerphone tends to be rather weak and kind of drowns out under noisier conditions. But our callers didn't have any issues on their end line listening to us. As for the battery life, it's better than average with its 3000 milliamp hour battery. With that, we're able to get by approximately 1.5 days of normal usage out of it. And for heavy usage, it's more than equipped to give us at least 1 day. Now, if you're a T-Mobile customer, you can pick up the Sony Xperia Z1S for $0 down with 24 equal monthly payments of $22 per month on its Simple Choice plan, essentially giving the handset an outright cost of $528. So it looks like Sony's the first out of the gate with a high-end flagship smartphone in the Sony Xperia Z1S for T-Mobile. It's a great offering, and it's one of the few phones that you could take into the shower with you because it's waterproof. And throw in the fact that it has some really nice high-end specs with a balanced performance in pretty much all categories, it's a pretty good contender in the Android space. Then again, we're coming to that point where we're going to be hearing a lot about some next generation devices with some impressive technology. So some people might be hesitant about picking up the Sony Xperia Z1S, but if you're looking for a device right now and don't want to wait, it's a great option for you. So if you guys want to learn more about the Sony Xperia Z1S, you could check out our website, phonearena.com. John V. Thanks for watching.